Neymar passing Pelé, Luis, quite an accomplishment.
Amazing accomplishment, Sebastian. I think we know how good he is, what a talent we saw back almost 15 years ago. And when he arrived to Europe and what he did for Barcelona, maybe the mistakes are on the way to maybe we could even talk about Neymar becoming one of the greatest, if not his closer there. But definitely the decision to go to France kind of shade a little bit his career, but still, and in my belief, I think they're one of the best players we ever seen, the most enjoyable. And this achievement, I think it puts him a little bit on the best players, or Brazilian best players of the history. We can see there, top scorer with Pelé, with Ronaldo, right there with the big guys, Rivaldo, Romario, players who, of course, we all remember because of the quality, the talent, and the ability they all have.
It's interesting, you hear Luis's answer there, and yes, we're talking about Neymar, this incredible talent, but even in Luis's response, there's some element of what if about this player, isn't there?
And that's going to be part of the narrative when it comes to describing Neymar's career, because you cannot ignore it. He has been, in some ways, his own worst enemy. Mm-hmm. When Neymar is at his best, there is no defender in the world that can stop him. He's the only one that stops himself, and not because of a lack of talent, but because of decisions that he makes off the field, because of choices that he makes off the field. It's not about on-field performance. It's the off-field behavior and off-field choices that he has made that now have impacted and affected his on-field performance, and therefore we have to continue to address it. But in terms of talent, and we're just talking about talent alone, Neymar is just as good as anybody else in the world, and has been for a while. The problem is that we don't see the realization, full realization of that talent. You don't break a record by Pelé with Brazil, wearing that jersey, and all that it means by accident. There's an element of productivity, an element of talent that cannot be denied. But we cannot ignore what he has done to his career, and I would say against his career. It's part of the narrative. You can have it both ways, I think, when it comes to Neymar, and the analysis of his career is nuanced. It's not black and white. There's a lot of gray areas here. The talent is undeniable, but it's also undeniable the fact that he has come up short on some of the expectations that he should have had for himself because of his own behavior.
He's 31 years old, Shaka. He's playing in Saudi Arabia. Is he still today the guy that Brazil should be building their team around?
I'm not sure that Brazil have a better player, in all honesty, and in so many respects, another choice. I think the difference is, and it's kind of summed up in the answers, between the conversation that we were having 24 hours ago about building a team around Lionel Messi and building a team around Neymar, is what Messi has delivered for Argentina at the highest level in terms of trophies, which Neymar simply hasn't. And while, yes, he's written his name into Brazilian football, and I'm not trying to downplay that at all. If we are talking about a World Cup in 3 years' time, what is Neymar's position going to be? How good a player will he be? Can he carry this team in a way that he hasn't up until this point? Because while we're talking about Neymar and how good he's been and writing his name into history, Brazil have not delivered in terms of significant silverware during his time wearing the yellow of the national team.
If you're Brazil, and whoever's coaching Brazil, which we assume is Carlo Ancelotti, and you're going into the 2026 World Cup, it should not be Neymar's team. If you have had a natural evolution of this group, this should be Vinicius' team. It should be Vini Jr.'s World Cup. It should be his moment. If you're still dependent on Neymar to be that guy, then you have a problem. Because now you're depending on some guy, to Shaka's points, that hasn't been able to deliver in those moments, that hasn't been able to consistently put himself out there and be more than a guy who's at times talked about more about his inconsistencies rather than his talent and his productivity. You want to lean on that guy when he's 3 years older? Not quite. If you're a Brazilian fan and the Brazilian manager, and you're looking as to who you rely upon to be that difference maker in the final third in 2026, you're thinking Vini Jr. is the guy not Neymar.
But to add to that point, and again, kind of going on conversations we've been having over the last couple of days, while we sat here and we questioned Cristiano Ronaldo and his ability or wanting to call time on his Portugal career, while we said it's Lionel Messi who'll dictate when is his last game, whether by accident or by design, Carlo Ancelotti and his relationship with Vinicius Jr. might be the perfect hire for Brazil in forcing that transition, in letting Neymar know that he's not the man this time around. And again, just kind of given a lot of the false promises that we've kind of lived through with Brazil over the last few years. Maybe that time is now.
You know, he won't just be, I'm thinking about the 2026 World Cup, not just 3 years older, but 3 years removed from top flight football on a week in, week out basis. Luis, I wonder how much you think Neymar's move to the Saudi League will impact him with Brazil at the international level.
If I'm honest, I'm not sure if he's going to stay there for the whole contract. I think he's got 2 years contract. I think I'm not sure, because definitely it's quite tricky to be the personality that Neymar has got, to know that to be in Barcelona, Paris Saint-Germain, Brazil, top scorer, and arrive to a league where I think the way that you can see it today, dribbling, passing the ball, dropping the shoulder, arriving to that kind of league is going to be a nightmare, because he needs a challenge. He needs someone who can give it a challenge in every weekend, because for him it's going to be to play with kids, play around, play with some friends, because for him football is in a different level. So if you arrive to this kind of competition where you are not being challenged, if you have to switch on for a World Cup, switch on for the top and play against the highest standards, it's going to be very difficult. Very difficult to try to adapt in maybe 1 month, because that's the way the kind of players that they do. They work during the year, and when the World Cup is arriving, then you switch on, you reconnect, and try to bring your best to the World Cup. But definitely, I think this is not going to be enough, because years go past, and if you cannot keep that consistency, that intensity on playing, I think it's going to be very difficult. Like you guys says, you cannot rely on Neymar for the World Cup, but it could be a very good ad.
What I would say about that is that I don't know that it's so dependent upon as to where Neymar is playing. Because he has been playing at Barcelona and he has been playing at PSG. And there still were questions about, not so much at Barcelona, but in PSG in terms of his preparation and his commitment and his engagement with the team and the club, and what that would be the impact with the national team. And he was PSG, and he made that move because he wanted to be the guy. And now he was the guy, and that wasn't enough. And so, look, he could be playing at the end of the world. And it really comes down to what his personal level of commitment is, regardless of where he is. Because when it was at PSG, it wasn't enough. And if that doesn't get your attention, then I don't know exactly what does. At some point, and this is something that we have said about Neymar, in his career, he has to take a good look in the mirror. He has to evaluate what he has been, and he has to objectively be critical of what he has achieved and hasn't achieved, and how he can go about closing out his career in a manner in which he deserves and his talent deserves. But he's the only one that can make that decision. Not the people around him, not the people that hang around him and sort of kind of getting his ear. No. At some point, he's got to realize that, look, I can be more than what I have been. And I have been special, and I can be more. I can do more. But in order to do that, there's got to be a commitment, whether that's in the Pro Saudi League or wherever he ends up, in order for him to be the best version of Neymar, whatever that is at this point in his career.
As a pro, when you see another pro in tears on the bench, what do you think?
No, of course it's sad. You can see the frustration on his face. Tears just come out because he hasn't had the start. He's been waiting for this moment to be important for Tottenham, to be the player now for the national team, knowing that Gabriel Jesus is waiting for this opportunity to get back into the 11 starters. So when you have that opportunity and you miss a chance, or you are not playing as you know that you can do, I think, of course, it's frustrating. And this is the kind of player, when you are a striker, you rely on goals. You are there to create chances, to have your creativity in favor of your team, and of course to capitalize, to get the end product on your side. So I think Richarlison is missing that at the moment, lack of confidence. But he's a kind of player like this. He's going to be picks where he's going to be at his top and he's going to score many goals, and there's going to be moments that he's going to struggle on them. Then it's frustration what we can see, and it's really sad to see that on a player.
Is it unfair, Shaka, to ask if he's good enough to be Brazil's number 9?
I think he is. Not right now, but you certainly saw, and in particular, in the build-up to the World Cup, I thought you saw the absolute best of Richarlison. And then Brazil fall flat through no fault of his. You could share that blame around however you like. But he's taken a significant dent in his confidence at club level, as Luis was talking about, and Antonio Conte, where he felt he wasn't being given a fair shake. Then when you have somebody like Harry Kane, those opportunities are few and far between, and it's a pretty high bar. Then a change of manager, and he's thinking this is his opportunity. And he struggled, to put it as nicely as I can. And then Heung-min Son comes in, plays through the centre, and scores a hat-trick. And now all of a sudden, there's this frustration that had been building on Antonio Conte, and you feel you get the opportunity under Postecoglou, and you make a mess of that. Now, I've had my times where I've struggled with my confidence and have hated my time at club level, and I've looked forward to going back to Trinidad and Tobago to play international football, because that's where you feel at home, and you look forward to those opportunities more than any other. And all that frustration built up, not just this season, but all over last, you feel that Richarlison, back in national team colours, has an opportunity to at least enjoy his football again, and then that. And it's just too much to bear. And the only thing for me in terms of regaining your confidence is when I say a step away, not you step away entirely, but you're left out. You're left out at club, you're left out at an international level, and things just kind of, you get to understand what's important. Things find a way of showing you their perspective. And that's what Richarlison needs right now.
I'll give you the perspective of a struggling striker, which I know.
You might know some people.
I know full well. Look, if you're Richarlison and you are struggling with confidence at Spurs, and you get called in for the national team, you're getting an opportunity to go and play. And yes, I agree with Shaka. You look forward to this moment because you now understand that this is a chance for you to press the reset button, to feel a whole lot better by yourself because you're surrounded by people that like you, that care about you, your teammates, so on and so forth. And you're playing at home against Bolivia, which, let me just tell you, if you're a struggling striker playing at home against Bolivia, if you're Brazil, that might be the recipe. That might be the way that you get your confidence. And then a miss happens. And so everything that you were building up for, every moment that you thought of, okay, things are going to get better because I'm going to get this chance, you did get the chance, and you missed the opportunity. That's why you get the frustration. That's why you get the tears, because you were banking on this being the turning point. This was going to be the moment that was going to change everything for me, and now it wasn't. And beyond that, it's a matter of perspective. If you're Brazil and you have the history of strikers that you have had, you can go up and down history and find strikers and go, well, he's not as good as Ronaldo, he's not as good as Romario, he's not as good as Careca. So, and you can go down the line of Brazilian strikers and thinking, well, of course he's not as good as that. Richarlison, if you want to come and play for Venezuela, go ahead, baby. We'll take you. We'll take you. And look, we joke, but it's a matter of perspective. If you're Brazil, you have a higher standard for what a striker should look like. And Richarlison right now needs to find confidence, and confidence is not manufactured unless you start putting the ball in the back of the net.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week, subscribe to ESPN+.